Hi, this is Kumar Singh from Designed Analytics LLC, and you're watching another episode of Maverick Mondays. Well, this morning in a post I shared about bridges, which wasn't exactly around AI or anything related to technology. There was some element of technology though, but the gist of that was that bridges start behaving in a certain way once some of the core components that holds a bridge together starts failing, right? So they flex to keep standing, basically, to summarize, right? And the thing is, there was this mention of computer simulations, right? So if you think about it from a digital twin perspective, if we have a good digital twin of the bridge, like something you see here, right? If you have the data through strategically placed sensors across the bridge, the utility of that goes beyond just studying the behavior from a civil engineering perspective, but for infrastructure management as well, right? So you can understand and learn what are the typical traits that kind of are a good indicator, right? Of a bridge that is kind of approaching failure, and when the bridge starts behaving in a specific way in that direction, you basically can take preemptive measures, right? That's just one example, but since I just mentioned that it kind of falls within infrastructure management realm, my thoughts kind of then went towards the smart city aspect, right? Now, the first thing is, what exactly is a smart city, right? What exactly can be called a smart city? Because there are so many dubious definitions and claims that a certain city is a smart city. But in my perspective, a true smart city is one where all these aspects are managed based on data and analytics. Data is being captured in real time. Certain steps are being taken in real time based on the data being captured. There is back and forth, right? If you see, each of these components has a portfolio of AI. Say, for example, for the AI1, there is a portfolio of sub AI modules, AI1, 1A, 2A, and all these then kind of are managed by more like a centralized AI1. All these AIs then kind of tap into the cloud platform, where a centralized, I would say, data management platform kind of takes over. That could have its own AI, right? A master AI to make sense of all these data sets, data points coming together, and then kind of threading them together to create a more cohesive picture, right? And make decisions, recommend decisions based on that. So if you see, infrastructure management is just one component, right? But there can be all these different components and more than that, actually. That is actually a true smart city. And if you think about this from this perspective, you have a true smart city, right? Many of these problems that you see both in developing and developed cities these days can be actually anticipated, right? They cannot be prevented if it's an act of God, but the impact of an act of God can actually be managed much better, right? And that's the reason I say that a true smart city has to have all these components, because as you can imagine, you pick a scenario and you'll see that a scenario managing that effectively kind of encompasses more than one component, right? So the question then becomes, what exactly is the most challenging aspect of developing smart city capability, right? Obviously, it cannot be done by creating a 7 to 8 minutes video like I'm doing, or watching this video, right? It's all about implementation, but when it comes to implementation, there will be various phases. What's the most critical phase there, right? That's a key question. Well, the most critical phase will be to understand the current infrastructure, the existing infrastructure of the city, right? And then kind of bifurcate it, divide it into two parts. One is where you use whatever is existing as is, and understand how you can actually capture data related to that aspect of the city's ecosystem. And then the other bucket is aspects where that they must be kind of redone, rebuilt, before they can be retrofitted with equipment or technologies that will allow you to help capture the data points. Now, if you think about this from many developing countries, major cities in developing countries, it becomes much more critical, right? Because they did not expand in a very planned way. If you have lived in one of those cities, you know. So there's this whole mumbo jumbo, like plethora of chaos, right, in terms of infrastructure, and that kind of makes planning a smart city around it much more challenging. So that is the most critical aspect. Once you have figured that out, the rest, believe me, remains a technology implementation. But before that, it's much more about strategic aspects, socio-economic, demographics, and many different things coming together to understand how we basically tap into this ecosystem. How can we actually generate data from this ecosystem? What elements do we need to use the way they are? What elements do we need to use by rebuilding and then retrofitting them? I have covered many of these elements individually in many of my Maverick Monday episodes when I used to publish the original version more than a year ago, like pollution management, waste management, even like law enforcement management, everything, right? But for all of them to come together to create one cohesive, true smart city, right? This first phase is the most important phase, right? And once you have mastered this phase, the rest of the implementation becomes relatively a cakewalk. And the key here is to understand that building this smart city is not just about showing off. If in a developing country you are able to build a city, transform it into a true smart city, it will accelerate the development of the city significantly, right? It can actually change the entire course, fate of a specific city if you are able to actually make it a smart city. Because there are many aspects that will start coming into play once you have a actual smart city ecosystem, right? Things not only start running more efficiently, right? Starts creating more opportunities, streamlines, right? Development happens, innovation happens. There are many aspects, right, which are outside the realm or scope of this episode, but I will touch upon them probably in some other posts. But just by transforming a city into a truly smart city in a developing country, developing nation, you can actually accelerate the overall development of the nation as well, right? If it's a major city, one of the say 4 or 5 major cities of the country, you convert every metro, big 4 city in a country, right, into a smart city, and you will see that the country itself has started accelerating in terms of development. Well, that brings us to the end of episode. Thanks a lot for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.